Hi, everybody. It's Shelley. Yesterday in classes, I had some students starting to ask questions about what's going on with our contract negotiations. You know, the savvy ones who are listening to the news and perhaps have people in other places, they certainly have some valid questions. So, what is it that we can tell our students about what's going on? So here, are just some points that you might want to use in your conversation. And you can start by telling them that faculty does not want a strike or a lockout. And we realize that they may hear these words, and we're doing everything we can to prevent it, that we are committed to negotiating a fair and equitable collective agreement. And to that end, we are using all of the tools legally available to us to avoid a labor disruption. Those tools being formal mediation, being calling a strike vote, going through a 14-day cooling off period. Any of the tools that are available, we will be prepared to use. We can tell them that our most recent contract expired June 30th, 2020, which was 19 months ago, and that we've been in negotiations for 2 years. And this is way too long. Typically we like to have a new contract negotiated before the existing one expires. And here it is, we've been without a contract for more than a year and a half. I'm sure they can appreciate that that's too long. You can let them know that our contract is 145 pages and 28 specific articles, which are the actual terms and conditions. And during each round of negotiations, either side can open up any of these articles for renegotiation. So, it stands to reason that with a contract that's 145 pages and 28 articles, there could be differences of opinion and desires based on what's going on in the economic climate. A couple of other important details that I think is important for the students to realize is that, sort of the silent party in the room is the government. We know that we are, responsible for public funding, and the government, we know, has cut some of our funding in the past. So they're kind of like this silent party that we're kind of negotiating with. Also letting them know the pandemic has certainly impacted the operations of the university. So while we went into contract negotiations sort of expecting one situation to happen, and we started sort of right before the pandemic hit, the pandemic has certainly protracted our discussions and made it even longer. I think everybody was hoping that we would be able to get back to negotiating in person, and they had to realize that wasn't going to happen. So those are some of the things that are anomalies this round. And where are we at? Well, today we conclude our formal mediation, which is a tool that's used to help forward the conversations. We can tell students that we do have a strike headquarters located, and we are prepared to move in there. And they might ask, why do we need a strike headquarters? And, the simple answer is that if we are on strike, or if management locks us out, we may not be permitted to be on Mont Royal premises. And as we have to continue with our operations, we need a location where our 4 staff members can operate out of during the length of time we're not permitted on Mount Royal property. And I think we need to let, our students know that while we don't want to strike, that we are being very proactive and prepared so that we can go into that sort of job action very fully informed and very aware of what's going on and what's required. And what does a strike or a lockout mean for students? Well, I think first and foremost, what students need to know is that if we are on strike or if management locks us out, faculty will not be able to engage in any university-related work. This means we won't be holding classes, we won't be grading papers, we won't be answering students' emails, or we won't be using Blackboard. We are withdrawing our labor from our regular jobs to use this as leverage to hopefully get management to come back to the table and negotiate a fair and equitable collective agreement. We will provide as much communication to students as possible through town halls or any other official communication channels that we have. And, students can support us. They can share messages of support on MRFA's Facebook and Twitter pages. They can come out and walk the picket line with us. They can speak to administration and ask them to negotiate a fair contract for all faculty. And here are a couple of the hashtags that can be used. These hashtags are being used in the broader post-secondary space, not just at MRU. And when we have our own MRU hashtags, we'll get those out to students as well. And just a couple of other important pieces of information that is really important for everybody is that a strike vote does not automatically mean we are on strike. It is simply a legal tool to use to advance the negotiations. That most strikes in the post-secondary institutions are resolved in 3 weeks or less. And that once the strike or a lockout ends, we will work incredibly hard to ensure students are caught up on their courses. So that's all we've got on information for students today, but stay tuned. More videos will be coming out shortly.